Hello again, beautiful blank slates. This is going to be a little different video. I just kind of wanted to talk about the channel because we're hitting almost 500 videos on it, and that's just insane to me. You know, the fact I've been going at this for so many years, you know, all the different phases that the channel has gone through, and kind of all the games that I've went through. So, kind of wanted to talk about the games, how I kind of feel about each game, and kind of how I rank them. Because, you know, as of right now, there's about 420 videos on the channel in this, what I'm calling my fourth era of the channel, where I'm doing the gameplay for you guys. And of those 400 videos, I've completed about 28 series for you guys. So I want to kind of talk about those games. So I mean, there's been a couple. Of a 28 completed series, there's been a couple series that I've tried to start that like either wasn't really working for you guys, wasn't working for me, or just in general just wasn't meant to be a longer series. You know, Closer Protocol, I tried to play it first, but it just kind of fell flat, and Dead Space eventually came along and became a better series for that one. Dishonored, I tried to play after Ghost of Tsushima. It was kind of just a holdover series until I found Last of Us to play. Destroy All Humans was kind of maybe another holdover series, and I didn't really mean for it to go on for too many episodes. Since it was not really a very serious game in general, it's just kind of like an arcade type game, so I didn't think too much of that one. And then Endling and Trek to Yumi were two series that I put in, kind of suggested, along with Unpacking. But Unpacking won that poll, and so those two have kind of left on the floor. I'd be happy to kind of go into both of those ones. Necrosis is another one there, but I got so mad at the gameplay that I'm probably never going to pick that game back up. Spider-Man Miles Morales was another game that I had thought about, along with God of War, but that obviously God of War and its sequel became kind of the series that one took off with. And Miles Morales I kind of started just because the second Spider-Man had come out at the same time, so I thought maybe that could work. But it wasn't really that big of a series, so I'm not too worried about it. And then Avatar Frontiers of Pandora was another one of those series, kind of the same idea as Closer Protocol, that I wanted to kind of start as a jump on the hype train of the new game, but it didn't really take off as much as I wanted, and the game wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought it'd be a little bit more linear, but it becomes more of like, it was a little more too open world for me to play through. So, you know, but a couple of those series, you know, like these guys, I'd be okay to kind of go back into. If you guys wanted to see more of the series, you want me to continue that one, I'd love to know. And I have a couple of series that I kind of started, but you know, they were never gonna last for too long because there's not really an end to them. You know, the Hades I had a couple episodes of, Killing Floor I had the one episode of, Sims I had a couple episodes of, the two videos I did for Halloween the 1 year, Financial Phrase and Dead by Daylight, and then of course my three big ones at the very start of this era, Rainbow Six Siege, Extraction, Apex. I still do some Siege for you guys, but all of these don't really have an ending. They're all kind of just, you know, play over and over and over again. They were kind of good streaming games, but like I'm kind of shifting away from streaming, both kind of a personal sense and more of and also kind of a timing sense. It kind of the era that I did a lot of streaming was when I was kind of feeling isolated and alone. Streaming can help me connect with people, and so I'm in a much better headspace and a better environment. So streaming isn't really something that either I kind of need, nor is it kind of something that I kind of have time for anymore, unfortunately. I still want to, you know, I'll still do it occasionally, but like not as much as I used to. So those series, I don't think I'm going to continue on too much. I'll still probably do some Siege for you guys, because it's still like my favorite game that I play. So I'll probably still end up playing it. So, but getting away from all that, I do have, you know, the 28 series that I've completed throughout the channel. So I want to kind of go through them piece by piece and talk about kind of how I rank them in a couple different factors. I'm going to rank them, how I feel in different categories, and then kind of have an overall like what I feel is the best game on the channel, what series I kind of am not too favorable of. So going through the series, the 28 series that I have completed for the channel, we're going to just go in chronological order. So starting off with BioShock Infinite, the very first story game that I played for the channel, and one of the only 2 games that I had previously finished before. And as a result, I don't feel like my reaction was as genuine as it could have been. But BioShock Infinite, was always a good game. It has really good voice acting, really good visuals to it. It's a little bit dated because from the 7th generation of consoles, but it's still a good game, and I still enjoy playing through it. I still enjoy the varied gameplay of it and seeing how the game itself kind of shapes the narrative of this dimension hopping parallel universe type story. So really good game. And then the other game that I previously finished that I had for the channel was Titanfall 2. So just like Infinite, it was just a game that I finished before because I felt like it'd be an easy way for me to kind of ease myself into the gameplay of more narrative driven games and story games that could that I wanted to kind of shift the channel from playing Siege and live streams. So, but Titanfall 2, it's still a really good game. It's short, way shorter than BioShock Infinite was, but it's still a really good story. I think the only reason it was so short is just because I had played the game before, so I knew exactly how to take on enemies, how to progress the story forward. There wasn't really anything I struggled with too much with the game, but it's still a really good story. It's a really good game. I love the interactions between BT and Cooper and kind of that emotional depth that the game creates at the end. You can see me whining like a baby at the very end of the series. So, but it's a really good series. So, and it's a bit higher than Infinite just because of that ending. So, moving on to the third series that I had played, Ghost of Tsushima. Not only the very first game that I played for the series that I did not complete before, but it was also the first open world game that I played for the channel, and that in turn led it to be the longest series that I have on the channel, and I've had to learn a lot of things from that. One of the big ones is that I can't be sidetracking on the side quests. Had to kind of focus on the main story to kind of progress the game forward. So, but regardless of the fact that it was my longest series, clocking almost more than 24 hours of gameplay, I still enjoyed every minute of it. It was still an amazingly fantastic game, and I enjoyed, I never had any problems with the gameplay itself. There was just so much game there that I got sidetracked and didn't finish, and it took me a while to kind of get back on track of the actual main plot line. So, but still one of my favorite series on the channel. In the middle of Ghost of Tsushima, I had the Stray week, the very first time I'd had just a week dedicated to a single game rather than having multiple weeks of one game. So, but I remember I recorded all of Stray in one sitting. I had played the whole game in one shot, and then broke it up into the 4.5 episodes. So, but it was, I'm not going to say it wasn't what I was expecting. It's a little bit different than what I was expecting, but it was still a really good game. I enjoyed playing through it. I enjoyed doing the puzzles and finding out the story of Stray and the story of this underground bunker of these robots and the virus and everything that happened. It's sad the little robot passed away. So I'm kind of sad that we don't see anything of the cat outside of when it leaves the bunker. I wish there was a little bit more of that. Wish it was like DLC where you get to you wander the wastelands trying to find the rest of the cat's friends and family where we left off. But still a really good series. I'm glad it was my first real quote unquote one shot that I had played for the channel. Following that was The Last of Us, which I had a lot of fun making that promo video for it. I was really afraid that I was gonna scare the neighbors. I was kind of standing out in basically the middle of the night, pretending to rack it because I didn't want to actually fully rack it. and make the sound. So if you watch my hands, I'm pulling it down a little bit, but I'm not triggering the racking mechanism. So I was afraid the neighbors were going to call the cops on me if I did for too long. So that was my best take that I did on a series of like 5 or 6. So, but regardless of that promo, The Last of Us was a really good series. I had never played through it before. I'm glad I finally had a chance to play through the game and kind of experience that console-defying game that came out for the PS3. I do see why it's such a popular game. I do see why there's so much lore and love behind it, because it really was a good game. It was, it's also the first time in a series I had messed up the ending timing. I ended an episode thinking there's still gonna be like 20 minutes of gameplay, and literally the game ends in the next 2 minutes of gameplay. So that was funny to watch through, but it's a good game. And then it just happened, the timing of that was right when my incident happened. So that was a fun timing, especially since it was only like my 4th series I was able to finish for the channel. So like I said, long break, and then came back to the channel after my break and played the Dead Space remake, which was really, really fun. It's the second Dead Space, and I played through the first Dead Space, and I tried to play through the third one, so I kind of had a good, I never finished the third one, but I probably should at some point. But I'd always loved the Dead Space series, and it was really cool to see the remake kind of not really alter too much of the storyline. They fixed a couple of the mechanics and made it a lot more streamlined. But the game itself is still pretty much as a whole the same game, just as funny, if not even more fun with the higher processing power that the new generation can handle. So, but it's another great game that I'm glad I was brought to the channel. And then of course, because I played The Last of Us, I'm on to The Last of Us Part 2. That ended up being a lot longer series than I thought it was going to be. But I really liked Ellie. So you play half the game as Ellie and half the game as Abby, and it really creates this like moral gray area between the two characters. You just like you may side with one or the other, but you can see where they're both coming from. You see the fact they're both survivors. You can see the fact that they are both just trying to make it through the world. So it's a really cool game to play through. Really cool mechanic that you have to survive with her. You have to survive with both ladies, and in the very end, it's just a very sad ending, at least in my mind, because of the fact that, Ellie couldn't let go of this anger, this grudge that she had. She lost her father figure in the beginning, and then the very end, she loses the life that she had, frankly, in my mind, earned at that point. She had fought to keep people safe, fought to get back what she lost, and to me, she had earned that life, but she threw it all away to pursue this anger, to pursue this revenge. And in the end, she didn't even get that revenge. She just she just wasted time and lost people, lost fingers. It was a mess, but it was a really, really cool game. Part of me wants another part to that game series. Part of me doesn't. Part of me wants the series just to kind of end right there and just let her be. So, but I'm really glad I did both parts of The Last of Us. Following that, I did Resident Evil Village. That was one of the weaker games of the channel, and it's a Resident Evil game. It's pretty cookie cutter for what it is, but it has some fun mechanics, it has some interesting characters, but in the end, it's just kind of another modern Resident Evil game that didn't really go over well with you guys. And I kind of looking back, after re-editing it for December Fest, I kind of see where you guys are coming from now. It's not a great game, but it was still, it was mostly fun. So, and then following that, kind of keeping the same vibe, played through the original Outlast and the Whistleblower DLC. I had seen Mark's playthrough of it years and years ago, but I didn't remember most of the events that happened. I remember the one scene at the very beginning where where Walker, I believe his name is Walker, pulls you out of that cubby space and tosses you down to the floor, and that's about all I remember. So it was kind of fun to play through the game, even if I'm a bit of a wimp and had a hard time finishing up the kind of scarier scenes. But it was still a fun game to play through. It was still fun to experience that kind of older game series. So, and then like I said, I had those couple games that offered like which one do you want to see, and overwhelmingly you guys want to see Unpacking. I'm glad I played through that game. It was so simplistic and kind of silly, but it was, it told a story through almost entirely through visual. You're telling a story of this woman that's growing up and discovering herself, discovering what life is, just growing as a person, and it was just kind of fun to see kind of piece together her life just based on her belongings and the houses that she moves into. So it was a really relaxing game to kind of play through, and it was one of the games that I would love to kind of go back and kind of do a silent playthrough where I'm not there, I'm not making commentary, I'm just playing the game for you guys. So, and then along with Unpacking was the other two series, either God of War or Miles Morales, and God of War overwhelmingly won again, and I'm glad I finally played through the original God of War remake, because it was such an interesting story. It's such a very clean control, a very nice storyline, and it was just a very beautiful story. So I'm glad to play through that. And then of course I follow up with its sequel, Ragnarok, which just enhanced everything else. It made better visuals, better audio, better story. Oh, a lot more depressing story with the dwarves and with Loki and just everything. It's there was so much to it, and I'm glad I was able to play both of them back to back. Kind of keep that momentum rolling with its gameplay, its stories, and just kind of growing with these two main characters, with Atreus, Loki, and Kratos. So really fun. And then of course I followed up with Atomic Heart, which I was hoping was going to be a bit better than it was. It was still a good game. There was, I think, part of the reason that it didn't do so well is because it just came out just the wrong time with the controversy of Russia and the Ukraine. But to me, it's still a good series. It's a really cool alternate history timeline. The ending still confuses me, and I wish I've been looking into if there's a way to get a different ending, and apparently that's just the ending. So I know there's DLC for it that I might go through at some point, probably one on the channel. But Atomic Heart is one of those. It's just an interesting game with some kind of Bioshock Infinite feeling mechanics. So, but it was good. And then I followed up with the original Bioshock game that I had played a little bit of before, but I had never fully finished it. So, but it was one of the only retro games I have on the channel. It's that old. But it was a really good game. The story still held up. The gameplay was still good. It kind of had that kind of older feel to it because of the retro nature of it. So, but it still was a good game that held up. It still played really well. The storyline was still really nice. So, I had a lot of fun playing through that. And I feel kind of bad that was kind of the last real game I played through before my life got kind of hectic again. So, but I followed that up with Limbo and Inside. I'm gonna put them in the same spot, even though Inside technically came out like a year after that. And I'll talk about that in a second. So, but Limbo was a game that I had not a lot of knowledge of. I knew that it was a popular game back in the day, but I didn't know a story about it. I still don't really know a story about it. I still, I make assumptions on what the game means, but I still don't know what it was. I played through the best I could with many, many, many deaths. But it was still a fun game. I'm glad I was able to do that. And again, another sitting down doing it in a one-shot. But Limbo and Inside, I played not only in one shot, but back to back. So that was, about 6 hours of playing a game. in games, which I don't know how I found the time to do so. But Limbo was really good. It was a really cool game to play through, that kind of nice black and white 2D style. It was kind of fun just to kind of figure out the game mechanics and the little puzzles for it. And then inside, I was meant to put out at the same time, but because of, like I said, because of what life kind of happened, and my video editing program was kind of a mess, and I got frustrated with it, and so I thought I accidentally deleted it, but turns out I just kind of put the files in a folder that I forgot about, so I was able to put it back, revive it, and put it back on the channel for you guys. But it was still a really good game. I'm glad I was able to play that one too. It's, to me, it's a little bit less, it wasn't as fun as Limbo. There was a couple things in there that I wish was a little bit more like Limbo, but overall it was still a good game from Playdead, and I had a lot of fun finishing that game as well. But coming back from that long break I took over the summer months, I came back with Invincible, which was a game that I kind of seen on store shelves for a bit, and it seemed like it was really, really interesting. It was based on a novel from many years ago. That I still kind of want to read through at some point. But Invincible was a very interesting game. It was kind of a fun narrative about an old sci-fi space adventure, and kind of what would happen if astronauts were stranded in space with no knowledge that they were stranded. So it was a very fun game to play through that I had no outside knowledge of, which are sometimes the best games. And I followed it up with Alien Isolation, because why not stay in the space theme? So Alien Isolation was one of those games that I think I'd ever play through if it wasn't for the channel. Alien Isolation scared me too much when I first got it. I didn't think I was ever actually gonna play through it at some point, but I'm glad you guys were here with me to kind of go through it and play through a franchise that I have loved since middle school. I've always loved the Alien Xenomorph series, and I'm glad I was able to finally play through the most iconic of the video games for it. Followed up with Scars Above, the first game that I had got played through the channel that I borrowed to play, and it was good. I'm gonna say good. It wasn't really what I expected, and kind of looking back at it, it wasn't really a super interesting story, I guess. But I mean, it was still a good game, still a passable game, good narrative, but it just I honestly can't remember too much of the story. It was kind of bland, I guess is the best way to say. It had some good points to it, some good storylines, but in general, it doesn't really feel like it was breaking too much ground for storytelling, for what I think is an original game. But it was still a good game, and I followed that up with another long play of Gris, which was so cool. It was so pretty. It was such a very interesting art style, beautiful music, gorgeous visuals, really simple game mechanics, and it was just a very, very fun game to play through. And I'm glad I was able. It was the first game that I had kind of premiered each part separately, and then had one bigger part that premiered afterwards, kind of for people who wanted to kind of watch the whole series as one big video rather than having multiple parts. And I followed that up immediately with a Firewatch, which was another game that I've seen Mark play years and years ago, but I didn't remember most of it. And like I said, yet again, it was another one that I played in multiple parts, and then had the one longer playthrough as a video afterwards. So I had a lot of fun with that one as well. And it was, I didn't enjoy Firewatch as much as Gris, but it has some really interesting storylines. Gris was talking about the loss of a mother. That you can kind of piece together if you look for the hidden details, which I didn't happen to find. Firewatch was talking about the loss of a partner, and maybe finding connections with someone that you've never really met. And it was kind of, in the end, it was kind of interesting that, Firewatch, there was no supernatural elements. It was just people being weird or an unfortunate accident. So Firewatch was was just another one of those good games. So followed up with Soma, yet again another series I seen Markiplier play a while ago, but again, long time ago. Did not remember most of it. So I'm not gonna lie and say I don't remember the beginning, where with the brain bleed, because that always stuck with me. So, but I didn't, the morality of what is life, what is a soul, what counts as living if you're just, a digital mind copy of somebody who was once alive and now you're just stuck in a robot in the bottom of the ocean. So it was a fascinating game, fascinating game. Interesting morality around it, and the underwater survival mechanics were an interesting thing to play through. And then did the 2 parts of What Remained of Edith Finch, which was kind of a fun, lighter series after Soma. It was kind of fun to play through these, frankly, very strange stories of this poor unfortunate family. But it was the different mechanics for each section was fun to play through. The animal shifting of one, followed by the graphic comic type gameplay of the other. The fish cutting scene that was terrifying, and then the baby scene that I had to replace the music of because it kept getting copyright claimed. That was fascinating to play through. So, What Remains of Edith Finch is one of those very short playthrough games that has some interesting storylines that go through with it. So I liked it. And then did Bramble the Mountain King, another game that I borrowed that looked really interesting. It was different, based off of folklore and kind of created these narratives around different pieces of folklore, and it was fun to play through. Every now and then the mechanics worked against you, but in general it wasn't a bad game. It was just the art style was a little different, and the controllers kind of fought you sometimes, but it was still a good game. I enjoyed playing through it. Apslov was, I hate to say it, but it seems to suffer a lot from the fact that it wasn't made by a big studio. It feels it could have benefited from having a little better engine or better programming around it. It felt kind of early 2000s gameplay, but it was still a very fascinating fascinating story to play through, and it was fun to understand and kind of make choices along the way. So, I'm not gonna say it wasn't a bad game. It just wasn't, there was a lot of things in it that I wish were better, I guess is the best way to say. The storyline was really good. There's just a lot of the mechanics and visuals that kind of suffered in my mind. And then the last one before Decemberfest, Little Nightmares, was another one that I knew was kind of popular in the day, but I never had a chance to watch the series. I'm glad I didn't, because it's great to see all the interesting characters that are created with the blind playthrough. Very much a puzzle platformer type game with some disturbing visuals. So, but I had a lot of fun playing through it, a lot of fun trying to piece together what the story meant, who Six was, and who the lady in black, the Goetia, was. And I still am not entirely sure who it was. So, and then Decemberfest, and then the last 2 series that you guys have seen this year was 2 more that I knew nothing about, but it just had really nice ratings. Cocoon, which would again remind me kind of Little Nightmares, Limbo Inside, just a much lighter tone, much brighter visuals, and a little bit more emphasis on difficult puzzles. So some of the puzzles were very mind-bending, but it was very, very satisfying once you figure out the once you figure out the right order of the orbs and the series of events to get through these puzzles. So like I said, it was very well designed. It was a very well put together game. You could not get yourself stuck anywhere. He encouraged you to go forward. So it was a fun game. And the final series that just came out, Signalis, which I had so much fun playing through. It was, yes, I had a little bit of hiccup at the end of the 4th episode because I thought the game ended, but it hit the false ending, and I was so confused. But after finishing the last 2 episodes, the game was very fascinating. It was such a cool story. The idea of being stuck in a loop and wanting to not let things die out. It was such a good game. There's, has a lot of old Resident Evil vibes, with a really nice soundtrack and very fun dialogue and stories that go along with it. I know there's a couple different endings that you can get, and I think at some point I'm going to go through and try to get those endings, but I had a lot of fun with those. So, but yeah, in general, that's, those are the 28 series that I finished for the channel. It was, I had a lot of fun, not how I felt about these games, but also kind of going through Decemberfest and editing a lot of these playthroughs to make them into one long video. It was kind of fun to go through and see not only how I've shifted as a creator, but also how these games as a whole have made me feel. So I would love to know what you guys think of all of this. Which of these 20 series was your favorite game? Which my other series did you want me to continue playing? Was there anything that you would like me to change? Is there anything you would like me to just forget about? I'd love to hear from you guys. I'd love to know what you guys think of everything that I've done, everything that I've put into this channel, and where you'd like to see it go. Because I have a lot of ideas for what I like to play, what I'd like to add to this channel. But, I want to know what you guys think. I'd love to know what you guys would like to see. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy. I'm going to see you in the next video.